Hello, everybody. My name's Rick McCutcheon. I'm a Dynamics 365 MVP, and I'd like to welcome you to this session on shipping and transportation forum with BluJay Solutions and NMB Solutions. We're going to talk to some customers in this session and find out, how they went through the selection process and what made them actually pick BluJay and NMB. So why don't we start by introducing our panel, and they can tell us who they are and what they do. So let's start with Sabrina.
Thank you. My name is Sabrina Merriman. I'm the Director of Logistics for Brewers Supply Group. We supply malt, hops, adjuncts to craft breweries, wineries, distilleries across mainly North America, but we're owned by a company that supplies across the world. So, yeah.
So you've got some global shipping needs.
We have a lot of global shipping needs, yes.
Okay, great. Mario.
Hi, my name is Mario Rocha. I'm the Director of Operations for Joseph Ribkoff. We're a Canadian company. We're in the apparel industry, women's apparel. We ship product, or essentially 80% of our product is exported out of Canada across 50 to 60 countries and maybe about 5,000 doors worldwide. Most of that distribution is done through our network of wholly owned subsidiaries, probably upwards of 15 to 17 entities. And we needed a dynamic transportation system that allowed us to be able to deal with all the permutations of companies, entities, and doors in which we supplied directly to.
Okay, thank you, Mario. And we have one more person who is not on the camera right now, but Liz, can you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about what you do.
Yeah, hi there. Thanks for having me. So my name is Liz Lee. I'm the IT director here at Leatherman Tool Group. Leatherman designs, manufactures, and sells multi-tools. We are based in Portland, Oregon, where we do most of our distribution. We also have a 3PL in Canada and a DC over in Germany. We do ship worldwide, and we were looking for a solution that could work with the many, many carriers that we need to work with to get product to our consumers' doorsteps.
Okay, thank you very much. And then Mehmet, you can introduce yourself to the audience.
Thank you very much. So my name is Mehmet Pamuk, and I'm the Director of Professional Services at NMB Solutions. So at NMB Solutions, we are an ISV, a Microsoft ISV partner, and we are bringing BluJay products into Microsoft world. Basically, BluJay has global supply chain experts in transportation management, custom solutions, freight forwarder, parcel solutions, multi-carrier, and we just bring this knowledge, vast knowledge, into Microsoft work by just doing integrations into D365.
Great. So let's start with you, Mario. Maybe you can talk a little bit about the solution that you required to run your business, and it was a combination of selecting Dynamics FO and BluJay NMB together. But let's kind of get a little bit of background where you're coming from, and some of the issues you were running into that you had to go out and select a solution for.
Sure. In order to be able to better understand what I'm going to explain to you, I think it's important to understand our structure of our business. Essentially, all the product that we ship, I would say probably about 95%, if not more, is parcel couriers. Our accounts are small accounts that are located worldwide. They don't have the means to deal with all the importing of product that is being delivered to them. So what we've done as an entity over the course of the years is develop a network of our own subsidiaries that are essentially the ones who are the importers of record into each one of the markets, whether it be Europe, Australia, New Zealand, Mexico, Japan, Korea. And what we needed was a carrier system that was able to deal with the myriad of delivery solutions, whether it be a handshake type solution where we would forward our freight to a freight forwarder and they would hand it off to a parcel delivery company, such as a DHL or a DPD in Europe, or if we were to deal with an international parcel delivery company such as UPS or FedEx, that was another different type of solution. And a third solution is we do have some distributors that they're the ones who take care of all their freight. And what we needed there was a solution that did not necessarily create labels and so on. It was just a question of doing customs documentation and paperwork. So when we took a look at all these different main core aspects of deliveries, we literally have about 10 entities that require a handshake type transaction, where we give it over to a freight forwarder and the freight forwarder gives it over to a parcel delivery company. The freight forwarder needs sets of customs documentations to do the customs clearance. The parcel delivery company needs a label. Not only do they need a label, they need a manifest that gets uploaded into their system so that they can do the tracking and tracing. The UPSs of the world is they needed a seamless integration where our ERP system or a transport company system would basically push all the data into their network, and it would basically do all the customs clearance electronically. And the distributors just need some kind of set of documents that they can take along with their freight forwarder, and then they'll do the customs clearance. So that type of a framework required a three-tiered solution. And we shipped to these accounts literally almost daily. So with 18 or 17 different types of sets of documents on any given day, we may have to produce 7 to 10 sets of customs documents depending on where we're shipping. And then when we're on full bore deliveries, you can go upwards of 15 sets of documents. So when we're dealing with very tight deadlines of our transportation system being able to prepare the documentation, we needed a system that was able to close manifests, and not only close them, is be able to trigger all the customs documents that are necessary and do it in a very quick fashion, a very accurate fashion. Okay. Ultimately, we are the importers of record in most of these locations. And because we are the importers of records, we are essentially the ones who are on the hook for any issues with non-compliance of entries. It's not like we're giving this over to a distributor and then the distributor is the one who does the customs entries. We're essentially the ones who are responsible throughout the whole supply chain. And we've learned through experience that you do not want to have a customs audit 4 years down the line when they decide to choose you as a target or just to do their test audit. It's very difficult to gather documents. It's very difficult to try and explain anomalies. So we've learned that we needed a very robust system that was able to be able to do all those documents very quickly.
So Mario, can I stop you there? How were you doing it? How were you handling all these documents before?
Well, before we actually, what we did is we, in conjunction with another transportation management solution, we did a lot of internal programming. And this internal programming required that it was very, very customizable to very specific scenarios. So our system was unfortunately too rigid. One of our main carriers is a large carrier internationally. And if we ever wanted to go rate shopping and to try to get the best possible rate, we were tied to that carrier. Okay, we were not able to choose at will, whether it be a FedEx or a DHL or a UPS. And we felt that we were not in a position to be able to have proper open negotiations and do RFPs going onto the market. So it was very important for us to be able to detach ourselves from being tied to any one specific carrier. And that's where the BluJay solution comes into play, because of its ability to be able to migrate or to choose whichever carrier that we decided to go with. And we obviously wanted an international solution, such as BluJay and D365 that dealt with all the compliance issues from a sales tax perspective. And obviously, I can go, if you wish, I can go into those details, because that was definitely one of the very important aspects of why we chose NMB and BluJay for our solution.
So did you choose the Microsoft solution first, then the BluJay, or did it come together?
Yes, no, the first thing that we chose was the Microsoft solution. And we chose that, obviously we went through a very detailed evaluation, and what we realized is that there are certain elements that you cannot necessarily rely on one ERP system to do everything. Choose the best ERP system that's suitable to your business, and then certain things are best of breed, and just make sure it bolts on well, and that it works well with your solution. The one thing that I must say is when we were looking at the BluJay NMB solution, the one thing that was a big selling point was how seamless it was using Dynamics and NMB. When one was in the environment of Dynamics and one would switch over to NMB to create all those transport loads and documents, one couldn't tell the difference. It was completely seamless. And that is what we found that would be able to be a big selling point for our users to transition to one platform so they didn't have to learn 2 or 3 different platforms. And it also allowed us the training and learning curve would be reduced significantly, because now you're learning a certain set of sequence of how the databases are structured, how the menus are structured, and that was a big selling point in our selection of the NMB solution.
Okay, great. So you're kind of in your deployment now. So let's talk a little bit about sort of how your project and how the planning going and the deployment's going.
So when we chose NMB solutions, we obviously started looking at what was specific to our business. Apparel in itself, it's quite complex in that it has certain elements where we're dealing with rules of origins. The product that we sell to is made in Canada, it's made in Bulgaria. So we have a lot of free trade agreements, whether it be what used to be NAFTA or is now referred to as CUSMA here in Canada, which is the Canada, US, and Mexico Free Trade Agreement. We have the European Free Trade Agreement. With the advent of Brexit, there's the announcement of what's called the Canada-UK Continuity Agreement, which is a similar type agreement as CETA. And essentially is product that is made in those 2 countries or those 2 areas are allowed to be transported and delivered with free trade and tariff preferences. In order to do that, there are certain sets of documents that need to be prepared. So the NMB solution had to be able to look at the product, and when we have a scan, and there had to be a very close integration between the pack stations and the product that was being scanned, so that it would actually take a look at the manufacturer's lot number, and then it would be able to trace the countries of origins of all that product, and essentially build up tables so that when we would close a manifest, all the proper documents that would come up for customs purposes would be done literally with the click of a button. The concept in Dynamics 365, which they refer to as a transport load, that transport load allowed us to determine the selling entity, the importer of record, who the carriers are going to be, and then based on all those parameters, that would trigger all the documents that were required, whether it was a commercial invoice, and detailed listing of all the HS codes, item descriptions, certificates of origin, CETA permit applications, NAFTA permit applications, export documentation such as permits. All that could be done at the click of a button once all those parameters were set up. And another aspect of apparel is that an item that we call a style can actually have 2 or 3 different components to it. And then that's HS code. So for example, as maybe Sabrina or Liz might know, is when you buy a twin set, it's made up of a camisole and a jacket. We sell that as 1 unit, as a style. However, for customs purposes, they're really known as 2 pieces. So the system had to be designed so that it would read our product master, and by reading our product master, it would highlight the 2 HS codes, the item descriptions related to that, the values for customs purposes, and then be able to generate customs documentation accordingly.
So when we look at this solution, have you estimated the hours saved?
Ooh. It'd be humongous. It makes customs documentation preparation so much easier when we have that concept of the transport load and the proper loading of all those HS codes. We couldn't ask somebody to do that. It's just too time consuming. The number of transactions we sell on average probably 8,000 to 9,000 units a day.
Mm-hmm.
Of those units today, our customers, typically the average number of units in a box is about 5 to 6 units in a box. So our customer base is almost the equivalent of e-commerce, but not quite. We are at the cusp of e-commerce,
Yes.
but we actually sell to retailers, and they're small retailers, so they don't have large order quantities. So to deal with a shipment that deals with thousands of packages on a daily basis, and then you have to be able to do 10 sets of customs documentation going to different countries, it would be just too time consuming without a properly integrated transport management system that was well integrated with the ERP system.
Well, it sounds like you're on the right track to getting things a little more streamlined at your organization. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Sabrina, I'm going to ask you next. Can you talk a little bit about sort of your project and sort of where you came from and where you are now, and where do you think this is going to take you?
Yeah, so actually for us, the whole process started about 5 years ago. We started looking for a new ERP system. And at the time, we decided that we were going to go with Microsoft AX and the new D365 version. And we, at that time, also agreed to bring on a new TMS. We started the process of going in with our implementation partner at that time, trying to do both simultaneously, the ERP and the TMS together to try to implement at the same time. And the wheels kind of fell off, right? So they're both very large projects, obviously, and very complex projects. And the TMS provider that was chosen, along with the implementation provider, didn't actually meet the needs that we truly did have on our transportation side. So I actually put a halt to that, and they just went forward with the ERP implementation. We decided, once the ERP was at least implemented, we would then move to the TMS solution and see, where we could get. So when we started the process, we were obviously very gun shy on, not only which TMS provider we were going to have, but which implementation partner we were going to choose, because we had a tumultuous relationship with our previous implementation partner, right? Where there was a lot of just friction. So when we started vetting solutions and we kind of started narrowing in on BluJay, they had brought up NMB, and at the 365 is obviously a newer setup, and so you don't have a lot of people who have been in the system. And even if you've been in an AX, 365 is,
Different. Yes.
It's different.
Yes.
And on top of that, we did have a lot of custom integration done on our ERP. So there's a lot on the back end that had to be understood, and how did it connect? And then they actually left all of the previous TMS code in the back end. So working with somebody who was familiar with the system enough, right, that they already knew how to connect. It was very seamless, like Mario said, right? It was just really easy. And then they could easily diagnose if that was an issue that we had to work through, or if that was, code that was still implemented, so that we wouldn't have to waste a lot of time trying to dig and trying to understand everything.
So before we kind of go any further, Sabrina, let's talk a little bit about where you're coming from. So how were you handling the TMS and the ERP before this change?
We had an ERP. It was a legacy ERP, very old system that actually was basically on the verge of collapse because they had not upgraded it in 14 years. And so,
Yes.
Yeah, it was highly unstable actually. And so from a just a transportation aspect, we managed everything manually. So
Mhm.
we have roughly 200,000 outbound shipments a year in North America, primarily LTL, because our loads are about 1.2 pallets is the average. But we weren't consolidating. We weren't doing anything to really look at the logistics network and say, how should we actually be tendering this freight? Because it was so manual, and most of it was done at the DC level. So you have a DC who just gets an order, they look at it and they're like, oh, it's under this weight, it's going to go a parcel, or it's going to go LTL, or it's going to go full truckload. And the real need behind the needing a transportation management system was the consolidations. We have enough in enough dense areas that we should be able to easily consolidate on our own and save some of that LTL cost that we do have. And then also BluJay came with the managed transportation services, and that was a big selling point for us as well, as they provide that managed transportation so that it's almost an extension of my team, and we're able to scale up or scale down, especially in these times with COVID, right? It's kind of ever flowing, and so that was a really big draw for us, as well as the scalability of their product.
Okay, so now you're at the deployment stage. Tell us how it's different now.
Yeah, so now there's obviously been some major changes, right? Things are much more structured. I think what NMB was really good about making sure that all of our needs were met, and actually following and staying with us up at that hypercare back end piece, which was the other thing that we had not. Our old implementation partners, you go live and then they disappear. And so that's actually been really nice. We have multiple phases. So we started our first phase as just outbound transportation, just over the road outbound. And then we're going to move into inbound and then parcel and like these different phases. So obviously that helps, right? Because NMB knows that they're on for a few more phases here, but taking it in these smaller chunks, I felt like the team really understood, they dug in, they found the solutions, they really understood what our needs were, and came back to us with ways that we could achieve that. So we're about 4 weeks into hypercare after go live right now, and it was seamless. We had no customer disruption. Actually, customers didn't even know that there was a change, to be honest with you. We had announced it, right, because it was a big thing and it was a big change for us. But the one thing that I wanted to make sure is that if we went live, our customers would never feel that, right? That is a back end BSG. You should not have to feel that disruption. And we were able to accomplish that, which I think is a huge accomplishment.
How is your staff sort of doing with all the changes?
They're doing really good. I think, with anything, change management is difficult. We ended up doing a very large team. I think some of the learnings that came out of the AX ERP integration was when you don't have everybody's input, especially in a very complex network, you tend to miss very critical pieces. And sometimes you don't know that one piece might connect to 4 other pieces, right? So if you change one thing, you have to have input from everybody. And so we had a large group. We had, I think, 25 people from our side on the calls from the very beginning. Everybody was on. And I think that helped tremendously, not only to get the solution correct, but also just for buy-in sake, right? So when you have people from each department who've been there, who've given their opinions, who've worked in the system, who feel comfortable in the system, you don't have as much pushback from other departments, which has been fantastic. And change management goes a little bit faster when we do that.
There must have been an art to getting 25 people scheduled for a call, but it sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, it was definitely it was a hat trick for sure, but I think after a little bit, you kind of got used to the rhythm and the cadence of it. And everybody does, is really appreciative to have their 2 cents at least put in there and at least considered, so that we can all discuss the business as a whole, right? Not just as transportation as a silo, but the business as a whole, because we really do touch every aspect of the business from, all the way from sales to finance.
Fantastic. Okay, thank you. Liz, can you tell us a little bit about sort of where your project came from and where it's going?
Yeah, so I'll start with where we've been. We've been on AX 2012 R3 since 2015. We were a relatively new adopter for advanced warehousing at that time. And we had a number of customizations we put in place to get advanced warehouse to a place where it would work for our business. We also did customizations for each of the carrier integrations we needed. And at the time, our shipping and logistics business was simpler than it is today. So, we just had FedEx and UPS to start. We later added Purolator. And then most recently, we added DHL for our European operations. So last year, we made the decision that we would be doing a lift and shift upgrade of AX 2012 to D365. That's really, I guess, the technical term for it is a technical migration. So we're taking all of our data with us. As part of that process, we needed to make some decisions around which customizations would come with us, because we have to rewrite every single one of those customizations, and we had quite a few in the warehousing area. We also had some new considerations for our business. Our e-commerce business is growing. Our e-commerce business is growing internationally, which is expanding our need for more carriers. And we really felt like doing these custom integrations for the carriers is not scalable. It's very time consuming and costly for us to do those. It's hard for us to keep those up to date. So we made the decision, we're not going to take these customizations with us anymore. We're not going to write our own integrations for these carriers. We want to find an ISV to help us with this. And that's when we started to do our selection process and evaluation process, and ended up choosing BluJay and NMB. For one, they could cover all the carriers we currently use, both parcel carriers and LTL. And then they also have a lot more available to us as our business grows and as our carrier needs grow. We also really liked the tight integration with D365. We looked at some other options that were not as tightly integrated and would have required us to have a whole nother browser tab open with a whole new UI that our shippers had never seen before. And where we're coming from is very native to AX or D365. So that's something that was important to us moving forward.
So your previous system, you had to custom write all the integrations to every carrier?
Yes, exactly.
So in the new system, you're kind of getting sort of, an integrated solution that looks just like the same interface as the Dynamics.
Yes, exactly. And we're able to get rid of a lot of the customizations that we had, which helps me a lot in our upgrade budget, while moving a lot of the work over to BluJay and NMB.
Okay, great. So it sounds like you're kind of on the right track to getting the solution in place that you're really looking for.
Yes, we're still in the implementation phase. We won't be going live until May.
Well, we got Mehmet here. He can help you out if you have any questions on the implementation.
He's already helping us out quite a bit.
I hear he's a pretty good guy. So Mehmet, I'm going to turn it over to you, and thank you, Liz. Mehmet, why don't you talk a little bit about what customers can do to be successful in these implementations, and anything else that you see the two companies coming together that can provide even more of a solution.
Okay, so let me start with BluJay and NMB piece. Basically, as you know, BluJay is a global leader in logistic management, custom solution, their multi-carrier shipping, transportation management. denied party solutions. So they have they have a very big knowledge in the logistic area, and also lots of different products to offer to different customers. So what we have done with our BluJay partnership is try to bring those solutions into Microsoft Word, try to bring their expertise into Microsoft D365 with a seamless integration. So meaning that we try to create our own user interface within D365. So the users are, they don't have the need to go outside of D365. Everything is done within the D365 screens. It's easier for training purposes, seamless integration, and it's going to also, by bringing different product into D365 from different sets, like a denied party, or it can be custom solution, custom documentation, or it can be TMS, or maybe freight forwarder solution. So what we do, we try to bring those products into the mix, and if any of our customers would like to use some of those functionality, it's available to them. And also we have responsibility as an ISV. We have to keep up with all the Microsoft releases. We have to make sure that the solution works every time there's a new change, there's a new update in the Microsoft Word. We need to make sure our solution is up to date. Not only on the Microsoft side, but also on the BluJay side. There's BluJay is also dealing with compliance with the carriers. If any changes like new trade agreements are introduced, we have to make sure that it works with the solution, and we just make sure our customers have the full experience of new additions, new functionality as well. So having said that, in terms of successful implementation, so what we are offering again to a robust solution to our customers, different exposure to different products, different needs, and these are also proven in the Microsoft Word as well as on logistics side. And we try to work with both the customer and the partner in the implementation in a very close way, because this is also very important for the success. In some cases, we just work with the client if the partner is already left, like a BSG. But in majority of the cases, we work directly with the ISV partner, the Microsoft partner, to make sure their scope is handled and we are contributing to the success of this implementation. And as Sabrina mentioned, we would like to stay as a partner, not only until go live. This is very important. This is also for the reputation of our company. We would like to make sure our customers are happy. They are treated well, and we are just looking after that piece very seriously. We try to be a partner for the rest of that product resides in their product portfolio. We would like to support them, and we would like to make sure the process-wise, the interruptions are minimal, and if there are any interruptions, we will make sure everything will be restored, and then the operation is back to normal immediately, and that's our #1 priority moving forward.
Well, these are complicated projects, and as Sabrina said, the wheels fell off. And I remember one friend of mine who did a project said it was like changing the wheels on my car and not being able to stop the car, right? So it's all complicated, but I think this panel's got it figured out. And I really got to say that investing in this Dynamics cloud and Microsoft, with what I see coming on the roadmap around Dynamics, around Office, around Teams, around Azure, I think giving you a really good foundation, to go right across your enterprise with a fully integrated system. And as all of you said that, the screens all look the same, and that's really important when we're trying to build a solution. So I want to thank everybody for their time today. We really appreciate it. And you know what? We're going to come back in and check in a few months and make sure everything is still going great. So appreciate your time and have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.